Hi everybody, we're live.
Hi.
I mean, here's the problem. So I am, of course, an independent sales broker. Right? I don't work for anybody, but since January. I've been trying to get a more consistent position within the financial world. I have something. I've been a finalist now on 7 different jobs, and I didn't get any of them. So it's been rough in Dom land. Let's just say it's been very, very rough financially for several months now. But today I'm now a finalist for a job, but I had to spend most of the day working on this certification and all this different paperwork and stuff. So I know that the bill passed. I know there was a giant disaster. And I know some stuff about it, but I haven't looked really into it because I like eating and paying bills and stuff, and I need to go take care of it. This doesn't make any money. I don't make any money from anything that I do on social media.
This is just us screaming into the void.
This generates zero revenue. This costs me money. This doesn't bring me money. I don't make any money from social media whatsoever. So I've been worried about I got to make some money stuff. So you're going to be educating me on things tonight about this big, beautiful, disastrous.
Yeah, I mean it's a train wreck. You can't look away. Because so many people are going to suffer if this actually it passed the House, it's off to the Senate. It's still, a ways away from becoming law of the land because it would have to pass in the Senate without revisions and then signed by the president.
Yeah, it's got to pass Byrd, it's got to pass the parliamentarian and everything, sure.
Yeah. But as it stands, there are, some things in it that aren't so bad. And then there are things in it that are really bad. It's going to explode the deficit first and foremost, because it is massive. It is a massive giveaway to the top 1/10.
Yeah, I mean that part I know. It's a massive giveaway. There's provisions in it where people under $30,000, their taxes will go up.
Yes, the bottom 20% are going to be paying on average about $850 more a year.
Right.
And that's not even counting the fact that it is cutting a crap load of money from Medicaid, which is going to close a lot of rural hospitals that rely on Medicaid funding to stay open. So people are going to die. There's no two ways about it. People are going to die.
Yeah. So one thing that I did see, because I skeeted about this, is Medicare, is the Medicare stuff. And, the first thing that came to my mind, what I skeeted about, was the fact that we're in the middle of boomers retiring. And I know this because that's what I deal with all day, is boomers that are retiring. Michelle, that's exactly what I'm getting to. So this would affect the way that this would affect the budget would mean ultimately cuts to Medicare. I'm not talking about Medicaid. I'm talking about cuts to Medicare, which is different than Medicaid, even though they can be combined at times. But for certain people in certain situations, certain states, check your local listings. But the cuts to Medicare, as Michelle just brought up, would affect home health agencies. Medicaid would too, obviously. But there's Medicare cuts that would affect home health agencies. There are people who are adults, are working age adults, perfectly capable of working a job, but they are caretakers for a parent or for an adult child that has special needs. And so they get money to be that caretaker. Well, those types of things would be eliminated, right? When you talk about an economic disaster, this is literally just creating an economic disaster in every way, shape, or form that you could create an economic disaster for really no reason except that it gives billionaires tax cuts.
More money. Yeah. And so
it's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, the Medicare and Medicaid cuts are an issue. They're adding more work requirements for getting Medicaid. So the demographic of like able-bodied young men that broke for Trump, if they're unemployed, not for lack of trying, like there are tons of people that are able-bodied young men that are trying to find work but can't for whatever reason because there's macroeconomic issues that are at play.
Sure.
It's basically just fuck you. You don't count. You don't matter. You don't get health care
Right.
because it's you don't matter. So a demographic that Trump massively gained in, he is tossing a middle finger up to.
Well,
They're also cutting SNAP benefits, which is going to lead to a lot of hungry kids. A
yes.
lot of hungry kids.
And a lot of women. So one of the things the GOP always talks about is they want more babies, right? Well, there's lots of women who have babies, can't work after because they have some sort of complication from having the baby. So they can't work for a few months. And they end up needing SNAP benefits for a couple of months, just as a bridge as they're getting back on their feet, getting healthy again and going back to work. And now those SNAP benefits are going to be gone. Like, what we have to understand is people are going to be like, why? Why would you do this? Why would you hurt all these people? Why would you hurt your own constituents? Why would you do damage to the people who voted for you? What you have to understand is there is one singular thing these people care about. One, and it's white nationalism. No, it's not money. No. I'm not talking about the Republicans. I'm talking about their constituents.
Oh, no. I'm
not talking about I'm not talking about the lawmakers. I'm talking about the people in these communities who are hurt. What they care about is white nationalism, white supremacy. And if white supremacy is on display, there was a thread I saw earlier on Reddit. I was scrolling Reddit while I was eating dinner. Okay, this is a video. I don't know how easy it's going to be for me to find on Reddit. I can try while I'm talking. It may just be here on my sidebar, and if it is, I'll put it in. Yeah. Okay. This is. I'm going to put this in the chat. This is a thread on Reddit. It's a man being arrested by ICE at work. He's working his construction job. He's a U.S. citizen. And they just arrested him too. And he's yelling out, "I'm a citizen. I'm a citizen." He was detained for a couple of hours and then released because he was a citizen. It wasn't one of the people they were there for. But there are people on Reddit who are posting this saying, "Good, I'm glad they got him." Because all they care about is seeing brown people hurt. They don't care about if the brown person is a citizen or an immigrant or anything else except they have brown skin. And I know people get annoyed when they're like, "Well, you can't just when you say they just want to hurt brown people, that is, perpetuating racist stereotype." I get that. I'm talking about from their point of view. When they see a brown person hurt, injured in some way, it validates their own worldview. And their own worldview is a worldview of white supremacy and white nationalism. So they don't care. Their own kids could be starving in the street because they don't have money and they don't have food. And they will look at this of an actual U.S. citizen being tackled to the ground and arrested by plainclothes ICE agents at his job where he was just working. He was just at work. And some plainclothes guys with ICE on a vest walked up and arrested him, wrestled him to the ground, and they'll be happy. And they'll vote for all of it again.
Yeah, it goes back to that old adage of, if you can convince the poorest white man that he's better off than a black man, then, you can win him over. And it's very unfortunate. It also doesn't help that they have an entire apparatus around propaganda, like Fox News and the like. So they're going to hear things like, "Oh, there's no tax on tips," or a slight increase to the child tax credit. And they'll be like, "Hey, those are victories. Those are good."
Right.
And, In a vacuum, sure.
Sure.
Those things aren't bad. Like,
Great. An increase to the child tax credit, super happy about it. 100%.
absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely. But the fact is, like, it is also incorporated with, work requirements for SNAP and for Medicaid and cuts to Medicaid that are going to bankrupt states, which means that even if they're not saying we're killing Medicaid, by cutting the funding like they are in this bill, it's going to put more of an onus on the states. And states like California, they'll probably be all right. Like, California is the largest economy in the United States, and I think like the fifth or sixth largest in the world.
Something like that. Yeah.
California can handle it, but
Right.
Louisiana, Kentucky, Alabama, Georgia, none of those states where more people are on Medicaid than in some of the blue states, they're not going to be able to afford it, which means cutting benefits, which means either you get less care or you just get bumped off because you're like, well, we can't afford this program anymore, so we're just going to end it. And it's not the federal government ending it. They're just like, we don't have the money. Sorry. And I mean, you can't draw blood from a stone. So
Titan, I
and
realized I forgot to turn my volume up. I saw your comments. I fixed it. Yeah, exactly. And what a lot of people don't, they're so worried about. Yes, exactly, Shadow. That's exactly what I was trying to get to. They're so worried about Trump doing things that validates their worldview that's more important to them than people dying. Or the people dying deserved it. Or the people that's starving deserved it. Because at its core, white nationalism it's like a vicious patriarchy. And like if you don't ascend in the patriarchal system, right? That means that you didn't work hard enough. You in other words, you deserve to not ascend. If you're a white man who's poor, it's because you deserved it. If you're a woman who's poor, it's because you didn't support your man enough or didn't marry the right man, right? It's always about whether or not you're connected to a white man who is successful or not. And if you're not successful, it's your fault. And you deserve to be punished and hurt and have bad things happen to you. It's why they hate trans and gay and queer people, because they're not, just because of the nonconformity of it. They'll come up with all their other excuses of how it's this and that and this and that and violates this religious doctrine, yada, yada, yada. It's really just about nonconformity. It's about the fact that you're just outside the patriarchy. And that's not acceptable.
I have the number 700 billion in reduced spending to Medicaid programs.
700 billion over the next 10 years?
It doesn't say in this PBS article. Just a focal point of the package is
typically that's how they judge it, is over a 10-year period.
And 80 hours of work requirements.
Webcam mic, really? I can check. Sounds like I'm talking into the webcam mic. Where are my mic settings? Oh, it is on the webcam mic. That is weird.
That's I wonder why.
Oh, that is way better. That is way better.
I wonder why it did that. Oh, I don't know why it did that, guys. I have no idea. I thought I disabled that ages ago. So anyway.
Well, I tried changing my mic input too, so I think the software is just being.
Yeah, I think the software is just, sometimes software is weird. Oh, Shadow, that's probably what it was. I did a Windows update, and I think when I did the Windows update, it probably
I did too.
Yep, it's probably what it was. That the new Windows update. Sorry about that, guys. I don't ever check if my mic is the right mic, because it's always the right mic. It's always mic.
Yeah, I mean, I should have said something, but like normally we were chatting a bit before the stream starts, and like we had our own little tech gremlin issue. So yeah. Oh, and guess
Yep,
what else
sorry
is
about that, guys.
super important in this bill? Removing the money for Planned Parenthood and the tax on gun silencers.
A tax?
Because
Wait, hold on. They removed
the tax on silencers that has existed since the National Firearms Act in 1934.
the tax on gun silence. What?
Yeah. Yep.
Why? What?
Yep.
Okay.
And
Okay.
they are trying to make sure that, regardless of the fact that it is already law that federal funds cannot be used for abortion procedures, they are trying to make it so that Planned Parenthood can't get Medicaid funding at all. And that is like
Right.
the core place that low-income people go to get STI screenings, to get pap smears, and
Yep.
basic like sexual and
Mammograms.
reproductive health. Exactly.
Yeah.
Basic, health exams
Right.
for their reproductive organs.
But it's like what RFK Jr. said. I think it was it RFK Jr. or was it Dr. Oz? One of them said recently, it's your patriotic duty to remain healthy. I forget which one of them it was. And
that sounds like RFK.
yeah, I don't remember which one it was. But that's what they believe. They believe if you get sick, it's your fault. And like going to preventative medicine, well, healthy people don't need to go to preventative medicine. They're just healthy because they live healthy lives, and so they never get sick.
But yeah, so it was $700 billion from Medicaid and $267 billion over 10 years from food assistance programs, so SNAP,
Of course,
basically.
So
we're looking at almost $1 trillion of cuts.
I wonder
just
why
for the poor.
So we're trying to save $1 trillion. I wonder what we would be doing. But wait, hold on, Kitty. That can't be right. That can't be right because
I know where this is going.
We're cutting $1 trillion over the next 10 years. Is that what you said with a T?
Yes.
$1 trillion in the next 10 years. Okay. However, now correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't this bill also add $4 trillion to the deficit?
In tax cuts, yes. And they also want to add $1 trillion to the military budget for 1 year. They want a $1 trillion for 1 year for the military.
We're going to talk about something really boring. Are you ready?
Oh no.
Guys, we're going to talk about something super boring. We're going to talk about the deficit and what that means. Okay? I'm going to do my best to not make this boring. You're the numbers guy.
I am not a math
boring thing. Okay? But I'm going to do my best to not make it boring. So we're going to do a scenario here. Kitty.
Oh no.
Kitty just started a new business called crocheting tacos. Okay.
Naughty
Crocheting Tacos Inc. And Kitty's entire business is that she crochets tacos. Mm-hmm. This is all Kitty does. She just crochets tacos. Well, Kitty's tacos are really popular. Everybody wants one of Kitty's tacos. Okay. Everyone's super into Kitty's tacos. All right. Does everybody follow me so far? This is some, we're good. Okay. Everybody likes Kitty's tacos. Kitty, you can produce 100 tacos a day. Okay. Your business. Sure. All right. Your business can produce.
Okay. Not just me. My business. Okay.
Right. We hear. However, the demand is about 1,000 tacos a day. Okay. So if you had a business that could produce 100 tacos a day, but you needed to produce 1,000 tacos a day, what would you do?
You'd be running a taco deficit.
Sure. But would you maybe invest in your business so that you could
get more
then
people
produce
to crochet
1,000
them?
tacos?
Yes.
Well, okay. So that would be your plan would be, I need to hire more people, expand. I need to get larger warehouses and more crocheting kits and more yarn and all the things, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. You don't have enough money in the bank to do it. Okay. Let's say we're going to keep the numbers real easy. Let's just say it would cost you $1 million for this expansion. Okay. But in the bank, you only have 10,000. All right. How are you going to raise the money?
I mean, there's fundraising, there's looking for investors,
okay.
Creating.
Okay. Let's talk about that. Let's say you look for some investors and you have some investors that are interested. Okay. One investor comes up and says, hey, me and my 10 friends together, we have $1 million and we'll give it to you. How do you promise? How can you promise them that you'll pay them back?
I mean, well, promissory notes, or giving them if there's like a stock option for.
Okay, let's go with promissory notes. Let's go with the promissory notes. A promissory note at its core, the words, it's a promise, right? I promise to pay you back.
An IOU.
Right. Okay. A lot of times in the corporate world, instead of calling it a promissory note, they call it a bond. There is a bond between you and I. You're going to give me some money and I promise to pay you back. Mm-hmm. And when I pay you back, I'm going to give you some interest. Let's say I'm going to give you 3% interest on your money, right? So that's what you tell these investors. You give me that $1 million and in 10 years, I'm going to pay you that $1 million back plus 3% interest.
And that's a good deal for them.
Investors say that's a great deal, right? That's a great deal. I'm going to give you $1 million for 10 years. After 10 years, you're going to give me $1,030,000. That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good deal. Well, Kitty, did you know that our government does the same thing?
Yes.
Our government issues treasury bills and bonds, T-bills, 10-year, 20-year, 30-year, all different kinds of bonds and treasuries, so that people will give us money that we can then spend on things. We spend on all kinds of things. It doesn't really matter what we spend the money on right now for the purposes of this conversation, right? And so what we've got out there is a bunch of these bonds or promises to tons of different entities. Some are foreign governments, some are corporations, some are private individuals. And they have said, here, have some money. We, the US government, is going to at some point pay you back. If you bought a 10-year note from us, we have to pay you back in 10 years at whatever the interest rate is on that bond. Right? Okay. All of that money that's sitting out there that we owe to all of these entities is the national debt. So when we talk about the national debt, that's what the national debt is. Now I am super simplifying it. There's some other, little things in there and stuff, but on the whole, this is what the debt is. Okay. So now you can see how a corporation and the government acts kind of in the same way when we're talking about bonds and treasuries and paying back.
But that debt doesn't all have to be paid back at the same time.
It does not. So, if it's a 10-year bond, you have 10 years to pay it back. If it's a 20-year bond, 20 years, 30, or whatever. There's tons of different types of notes and products in different ways. And sometimes it's money that's funneled through banks, and sometimes it isn't. We could sit here for the next 10 years talking about different types of debt. As a whole, that's when we talk about the debt or the deficit, that's what we're talking about, is all the money that's sitting out there that we owe people because we had to raise money to spend on things that the government does. And we did that by having other people say, here, we have the cash right now for you to spend. You just have to give it back to us over a certain period of time.
Like,
right? Does that make sense?
Iraq, we had to raise money to
raise money
in the Middle East.
It might have been a war. It might have just been SNAP benefits, but there's a lot of different reasons why the US government needs money. We're not right now talking about all the different things that we're spending money on because I don't want to get derailed.
Fair enough.
So what the Republicans are saying is, okay, we have cut taxes for very wealthy people and corporations. Their tax rate is going down. We are getting less revenue from them. Okay. So what we'll do is, let's say this year, and again, I'm just using round numbers to make it easy. Let's say this year, the United States government owed $1 trillion in the debt. Okay. Well, the United States wasn't liquid for that $1 trillion. So it borrowed half of it. Mm-hmm. And said, hey, we're going to borrow that from whatever entity, China, let's say China, whatever. And we promise to also pay China back. That's the deficit versus the debt. The debt is how much we owe on like bonds and treasury and stuff. The deficit is what we owe beyond that when we didn't have the cash to actually pay that stuff back. And so we borrowed some of it. Sometimes we borrow it from the future. Sometimes there's certain products where we're actually borrowing from ourselves in the future. These are derivatives and things, again, outside the scope of this particular conversation, but that's the deficit. That's the debt that we aren't currently paying back. But we have borrowed it. And that's why people like the interest on the deficit is going up. Yes, because we weren't liquid for all of the debt that we owed right now. So we instead borrowed it from other entities. And so we have to pay the interest on the debt that we owe. We also have to pay a different interest, usually, on the deficit that we owe that's above the debt that we had to get because we didn't have the money to pay the debt back. The easiest way to fix all of this would be to raise taxes. When a business is in debt, they will try to do a couple of things. They'll try to cut labor, right? They'll try to cut spending, and they'll try to raise revenues. Can we sell more? If we can just sell more stuff, then that's the best way to get money, because then we can get cash for our goods and pay things back. Well, the government doesn't sell stuff, really. I mean, the United States Postal Office does, and national parks generate money when you visit them, but the government doesn't really produce. Yeah, I mean, there's some things, and we might produce some bombs and bullets and sort of things through, like, defense contract stuff. But on a whole, the way that the federal government raises money is through revenue. They either tax the states or they tax individuals and corporations. So the Republicans what they're saying is, after this long, boring conversation, I'm very sorry, instead of just letting the tax cuts expire and bringing in more revenue, we are instead going to slash programs and borrow more of the money that we owe on a regular basis. And what Moody's said last week is, no, bitch, that's not good enough. And we're downgrading your credit rating because you are borrowing too much of the money that you need to be spending on an annual basis to pay back these bonds and these treasuries. That's why Moody's downgraded us, because we're borrowing too much of the money that we should be liquid for, because we refuse to simply bring in revenue from rich people and corporations. That's the conversation. Mic drop.
Not to mention the fact that with talks globally about removing the dollar as the world reserve currency, that was a safety net for when we came close to defaulting on debt before, or when we came close to having our credit rating dropped. The fact that we were still the world reserve currency was a safety net. And with talks that the world's fed up, they're like, nah, we're not doing this anymore.
Well, I am not currently concerned. I've seen a lot of this talk. I'm not currently concerned about losing the United States dollar as the reserve currency, because it would hurt too many other large entities, like BRICS and OPEC. Like, for BRICS and OPEC to switch away from the dollar would hurt BRICS and OPEC more than I think those entities want to deal with. Now, over the next 20 years, is that going to happen? Oh, yeah. If things continue, absolutely. Absolutely. Because we're going to get to this point where we're borrowing too much from the future. And a lot of times you'll hear this exact conversation being talked about by Republicans. The next thing they'll say is, so let's cut some of this government spending. No, we don't need to cut government spending. We need to increase revenues. There's lots of different ways to increase revenues, including by raising taxes, but not just by raising taxes. We could increase revenues through, like, the national park system and partnering with state park. Like, we have a bunch of different ways to generate revenue at the federal level that we just refuse to partake in because the Republicans want everything to suck, because if everything sucks, then they think they can stay in power forever.
Yeah. And I think someone crunched the numbers that if they just removed the tax cuts for those making, I think, $500,000 a year or more, that would immediately make up for all of the benefit cuts to SNAP and Medicare and Medicaid.
Yeah.
But 760 hospitals in rural areas are set to close if this bill passes.
And here's the thing to understand about rural hospitals closing. If people can't go to the rural hospital, that means they'll have to travel. They'll either not get health care at all, or they'll travel to the city hospitals. So The reason that rural hospitals were built and funded by the federal government was that there was too much strain on all the city hospitals because there weren't rural hospitals. And they were like, okay, well, how do we solve this problem? Oh, well, we can solve it through government programs that already exist, like Medicare and Medicaid, in certain situations where if they will provide care to the local populations, then they can get money from the federal government and operate and stay open. Mm-hmm. And that was the whole fucking idea, because otherwise the city hospitals were getting overloaded. Now we're just creating a disaster for ourselves.
Like, if you think it's bad now with wait times at emergency rooms,
right, or urgent cares.
Or urgent cares. Imagine what it will be like when, you have people that what might not have been an emergency or like just an urgency kind of thing, where they might be having like chest pains and they want to go get checked out. It's an urgent situation. It might not be a full-blown heart attack, but then they might go into like full-blown heart failure, like heart attack,
Right.
Yeah. Or an infection they can't get treated, so then it ends up going more septic, and now they're taking up more beds and more resources from the city hospitals, which means longer wait times, worse care, because the staff will be overextended, and they're already pretty overextended in a lot of hospitals.
It'll make healthcare or health insurance more expensive for everyone.
Yes, because right now Medicare and Medicaid is helping to supplement the shitty health insurance system that we have right now.
Right. Spackle brings up, hi Spackle. RFK wants to make it hard to get the COVID vax. Yeah, I saw that today too. Basically,
what happened to bodily autonomy and personal choice? Christ.
What you have to understand about these people is all that matters to them is white nationalism and white supremacy. And if marginalized communities tend to be communities of my more melanin advantaged friends. Okay. So those communities tend to be poorer and won't have access to healthcare and that sort of thing. Right. Wealthier, more affluent communities will. So what it will do over time is just reinforce white nationalism, because over time you'll just see. What are you chewing on? Oh, he's chewing on his bone. Over time, what you'll see is that white communities will be healthier and non-white communities will be sicker because of these changes, and it will allow them to reinforce the white supremacy idea.
More affluent white communities, because right now there are more white people on government assistance for food and healthcare than there are people of color. So the poor whites are going to get tossed out with the poor people of color.
Right.
We're basically sleepwalking back to the only people that have any power or influence or are thought of by the government are white landowning males. Like that's where we're going. We're on our way to Gilead. You are removing funding to Planned Parenthood, so people are going to end up having more deaths from ectopic pregnancies because they can't get surgical procedures. They're going to have more infections, more STIs, more unplanned pregnancies. That is going to keep people from pursuing higher education, which is prohibitively expensive for a lot of people right now. You will have these people that will work to the bone trying to provide for their children for minimum wage jobs because they lack that higher education, thus being like wage slavery, where they're not going to stick their head up. They're not going to try to ask for better conditions or risk trying to unionize, because if they do, they could lose their job, and that's food out of their kids' mouth. You don't have the social safety net programs of, WIC and SNAP and Medicaid to help these people. They want people to have children, but then they don't want them to be able to truly afford them. So you remove the social safety net program so that they're stuck working grueling minimum wage jobs, even though they want to get rid of most of those with automation anyway, because the billionaires need to make more money. And it creates this vicious cycle where you're going to see we already have a pretty sharp divide in this country with a shrinking middle class, and the gap between the haves and the have-nots is growing wider and wider as the middle class shrinks. And as that gap widens, you're going to have a permanent underclass of citizens, and their voices already aren't truly being heard. Although they do still have a vote, and because of propaganda machines like Fox News, it just continues to compound this, cutting education funding.
Yep.
So you have an uninformed and uneducated populace and electorate continuing to vote in people that are actively killing them. And also that people like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel can eventually have Greenland as their own fiefdom.
Yes. And I think there's a couple of things to understand. There is no real end game for them, right? They don't have, there's not a situation where they'll be happy. It's not like, it's not like the New Deal, where the New Deal said, oh, we want to put these many people back to work. We want to make sure that everybody has retirement. Like the New Deal had a whole bunch of objectives, right? These guys' objective is just to take as many things away from you as possible. They just want to take everything away from you. They just don't want you to have anything because they don't think you deserve it. That's why Trump was like, yeah, you can have like $2 and 5 pencils. I don't know. I'm getting a new plane. Like, I don't care. Like, he just doesn't want you to have anything because he doesn't think that you deserve anything. You, all of you, anyone who's not him doesn't really deserve anything. And that's it. That's the end game.
Yeah. And the fact of the matter is, it is incredibly frustrating to watch this decline as we march towards Gilead, as we march towards, authoritarianism. I mean, we're already well on our way. Like,
Oh, yeah.
We're well on our way. Like,
Oh, yeah.
when you have people in the president's inner circle talking about suspending habeas corpus, like, that we're done. Like, we are not, it's not a what if anymore. It is a we are here right now. What are we going to do about it?
Right.
And it is so frustrating to see people that they don't pay attention, or they'll just hear things that they'll catch on Fox News or through osmosis or through Facebook or Twitter, whatever, and so they continue to vote for people like Trump. And I know of a person that they were gleeful. They are a woman, and they were gleeful about voting for Trump, even though, as a woman, like, that's just dumb. But they straight up said they needed to make sure they went down to vote to basically cancel out my sister's vote for Kamala. And now they still haven't reached that point of, I messed up, even though they are starting to see things, but they're still in this state of denial where
Right.
they don't realize that, oh, like the home healthcare stuff that my elderly, grandmother needed that helped her in the end of life, that would be gone. Like, wouldn't be able to afford that. Or, when my friend got really sick and didn't have health care, and they were out of work, they had Medicaid, and it helps them, through that gap period. Or another friend who, lost their boyfriend right after having a kid, so having WIC and then like Medicaid and SNAP like after the WIC period, because WIC is really only for, I think, the first like 6 months to a year,
Yeah,
plus during the pregnancy.
and it's very slim on what it's like cheese and milk and bread.
Peanut butter. I
butter,
had WIC when my son was born,
Right.
because my son's father found out that he got laid off from his job the same week we found out I was pregnant, and it took him a long time to find work again, because when you have multiple degrees, it makes it harder. They're like, oh yeah,
Right.
go get a degree. Like, but then when you're overqualified, you end up in a really shitty situation where there aren't a lot of positions for people with multiple engineering degrees, and they don't open up very often. And usually they require like moving, and like
Right.
it was a big clusterfuck. So I had WIC and I had Medicaid when my son was born, and for the first, part of his life. And yeah, it's things like peanut butter, bread, milk, eggs. Like it's the basic staples, but it helps.
Of
I mean, I
course.
swear I had so many things of peanut butter though, because like it basically, it's like, okay, you get 2 jars of peanut butter, like every month or whatever it is. I forget what the exact one was, but it's like you get these giant ass jars of peanut butter. And so I had a shelf full of peanut butter because I didn't want it to go like to waste, because if you don't use it, then it doesn't roll over. So I had a lot of peanut butter sandwiches, I'll just say. Because that was one of the things that is covered, but it is
I
the
love
basic
peanut butter
staples.
sandwiches. I'd be okay with that.
I mean,
Yeah.
but if it's all you have,
That's true. That's true. It would get boring. It would get boring quickly. I'd need some. I'd
because
need to
it's peanut
change it
butter,
up.
not
with some-
jelly. Not
Right.
jelly
Peanut
and
butter,
not
but not jelly.
marshmallow
That's right.
fluff.
That's true.
So,
That's true.
or bananas, technically. Bananas, well, actually, you did get a small amount that you could use on fresh produce. I
Oh,
think it was
really?
like $20 or something. I'm trying
Okay.
to remember. It's been 14 years. Yeah,
Right.
not
It's been
quite.
a
It's
while.
been 11 years.
So right.
So like it's been a long time, but I vaguely remember you got like, I don't know, like $20 a week or something like that you could use for like fresh produce,
Okay.
things like fruit and vegetables, and that's it. Like it couldn't be any like bag salads or anything. It would be like
And see,
apples,
and
bananas.
what annoys me real quick before I forget this, I need to say this real quick. What annoys me is people will hear that and they'll think like it's bad to be on WIC, or that there's something wrong with you if you need WIC or you need SNAP, and it's like, we're all in this together. I wrote this on Blue Sky the other day, and it got very little attention. I was very upset about that. Because I've seen a lot of people on Blue Sky lately like dogging on sex workers. And
Sex work is work, my dude.
sex work is work. We're all workers, bro. We're all on the same team. Okay. If you're a worker, if your net worth is less than like $2 million, we're all on the same team.
I'd say 20 million.
Or probably 20 million at this point. We can't survive without each other. What the rich people want is for us to eat each other and destroy each other so that we don't destroy them. They want us after each other so that we don't go after them.
Yeah, because
they are the enemy.
If we're busy fighting each other, we're not looking up.
Right. Your enemy is them. Your enemy is the rich people exploiting you, not the people that just want to live a different life than you live. But that's the problem. These white nationalists, they're the most cowardly, terrified people, because if you don't conform to the way that they think, they are terrified of you. Now, they will display it by yelling at you, maybe slurs, maybe they'll physically attack you, but they don't do that for any other reason that they're cowards.
Yeah.
They attack you because they're scared of you, because you display a bravery that they're incapable of. They're not capable of stepping outside of the conformity and living a life that's different than the one people around them expect them to live. They have to live their life in a way that the people around them approve of. And they are terrified of you.
There's a reason why the gay dating apps and hookup apps always crash when there's a Republican convention in town.
I mean, do you know why trans porn is so popular in places that have lots of anti-trans laws?
Utah, Texas.
Just saying. Here's my plea. My plea to the white nationalists. My plea to the white supremacists. You don't need to be scared. And it's okay to live a life that the people around you don't approve of. It's totally okay. 100% okay. You'll get support from a lot of liberal people to be like, hey, you know what? You do you. You do you. You should try it. You should try it. Dana, if you say one more thing like that in the chat, we will ban you immediately. You are not a doctor. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So don't spew anti-medical trash in my chat. If you do it one more time, you're banned. That's all I will say.
Huh, I must have missed something. I wasn't checking the chat.
Don't worry about it. Porpoise said, and that's why I'm not bringing it up or putting it up on the screen, because it's just complete and utter bullshit. Porpoise says, I think the anti-trans laws are there because Republicans are afraid of trans people get rights. Trans porn will stop existing. You know, I think that's a very salient point. Kitty?
Possibly, but these are also the same people in Project 2025 that wanted to ban porn. So, of all kinds. So again, going back to that demographic that swung hard for MAGA this time, young men, good luck with that. You know, if women don't want you because they see you as garbage for supporting Trump, and now you can't even log into Pornhub, nor get your fleshlight, nor your bad dragon dildos, like you're in for a real bad time, my guy.
And like, we're not talking about kink. Trans people are not a kink, right? Like, being attracted to a trans person's body, silhouette, whatever. I'm not really, you know, like, let me say it this way. For me, I don't find penises sexually interesting, right? Somebody has a penis, I'm like, okay, well, it's just not my thing. But it's fine. The only penis I want around is my own. It's the only one I'm into, right? Like, and if there's other penises involved, I'm not into it. Like, I can look at somebody and say they are an attractive person, but it doesn't mean that I find them like, what's her face? Blair White. I can look at Blair White and say, oh, Blair White is an attractive person, but I don't
she opens her mouth and it's like, nope.
Well, but I mean, I'm just talking about physically. I would not find her attractive. Same thing, you know, like Brad Pitt. Like, I can look at Brad Pitt, like Brad Pitt's an attractive person, but I don't find Brad Pitt attractive. Like, it's not my thing, because he's male presenting and has a penis. Blair White is female presenting, but still has a penis. And it's the penis that's the thing that they both have that I'm not into, right? But what disgusts me, and I'll see it in like the most casual comments sometimes on Reddit, and really kind of fucking irks me, is when people they just say, when they say trans, what they're really meaning is somebody who was born male, is now female presenting, but still has a penis. And trans encompasses so much more than that. So much more than that. There's so much more that goes on with trans people than just people who were born men.
Then there are also the femme presenting men that, you know, your femboy types.
Sure.
Which that can dabble a little bit more into kink when you're still a man. You're just presenting more feminine.
Absolutely. My point is more about objectifying instead of recognizing person as person, right? Like, you can find a person sexually interesting without finding them overly physically attractive. You know, so, but like, I don't know. It's just, I've been seeing it a lot lately. Like, people just using trans interchangeably with male to female. How I explained it earlier. I'm going to get all fucked up and, you know, first of all, trans encompasses a lot more. And second of all, it's not a kink, and stop treating it like a kink. It's really bizarre when you do that. Anyway, I'm sorry. I just needed to go on a rant there for a bit.
Yeah, no, it's so frustrating. You know, the party, like, not talking about politicians, but like people that consider themselves conservatives, like in the electorate, They are constantly talking about freedom and rights, and yet they vote for people that were not shy about the fact that, hey, yeah, we don't want you to have porn. We don't want you to have sex toys. Like, we don't want you to have the choice to do something, that harms no one
Right.
in the privacy of your own home.
Sure. Yeah. If it has, as long as it's consenting adults who are consenting to participate. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't care. Obviously, if there's exploitation going on or trafficking or
that's a whole separate issue.
Whole separate thing. But
yeah,
as long as it's consenting and everything, it's fine.
Yeah,
Sure.
it doesn't matter if you are a stripper, if you are a
Sure.
cam worker, or if you're doing, full contact with another person,
Sure.
or just OnlyFans stuff. It doesn't matter. As long as consenting adults are consenting to it, then go off. Like, it's fine.
Right.
We really need to get out of this mindset of not pointing out the fact that, you have freedom, you have rights in this country. And by claiming, yes, freedom and rights, you can't then, because you don't prefer something, say that you want to take it away, from other people when it is still also their right. It's getting married, and
that is the problem, is that that is how scared they are of nonconformity. That's how much it scares them, because when you display nonconformity and you're happy about it or successful or anything, it infringes upon their worldview, because their worldview is that everything is divinely inspired and divinely dictated. So how could God divinely dictate that a gay person exists that is there's a gay couple I know here in town. They've been together for, I believe it's 45 years now. None of them has ever had another partner, right?
Wild. I can't imagine that long with somebody.
I can't either, but they've been together for 45 years now. I knew them before this, but I actually was their Uber driver for their 44th anniversary. And I didn't know it was them that I was picking up, and they didn't know it was me. They were like, Dom? I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. I did Uber when I first moved to Asheville to learn my way around, just for extra money and stuff. And, ended up taking them a 44th wedding anniversary. Anyway,
that's
very
so
nice
adorable.
They are. They're super sweet. They're super sweet guys. Anyway, but the fact that those guys exist, the one guy was like an engineer or something at IBM, whatever it was. It wasn't IBM, but he was an engineer somewhere. They're doing very well. They're quite affluent and they're successful. The fact that those guys exist, well, according to the fundies, God must have made that happen. How could God allow this old gay couple to be happy for this many years and be in love and be together? So what they've got to do is just get rid of it, because it can't be true. Because then oh my God, what does that mean?
I mean, considering more than half of all heterosexual marriages end in divorce, when you've got queer people that are in it for life, you can't be showed up by the gays.
Yeah, you can't. We can't let those gays do this. They can't keep getting away with this being happy.
How dare they be happy and committed and a nuclear family with or without kids?
My God. I will tell you, Kitty, the worst part of this whole thing, they even have a dog.
They have a dog? So
they have a dog.
They're pet parents.
They're pet parents. I mean, it's a disaster through and through.
Shameful. Totally shameful.
It's awful. I have no idea. Spackle says something very prescient. They want gays to be sequestered to dark bars and parks, and they can say, oh my God, you're at more risk for diseases. Oh my God, you'll never have a family. Yet the reason why would be the fundies. Yeah, I mean, remember what J.D. Vance was attacking before the election was childless cat ladies, right? Remember, he went on the whole childless cat ladies thing. Jennifer Aniston yelled at him and everything. That happened.
How many scandals?
We just forgot about it, and then he went and killed the Pope, allegedly.
with Republican politicians getting caught, with gay lovers. How many scandals have we had? And like that's not even counting the ones that got popped for the CP or, like the pastors, like all of these conservative, religious, right-wing nut jobs that want to strip rights away from law-abiding, citizens that are,
Just living their fucking
different.
lives.
They're just living their fucking lives,
Right.
doing safe, sane, consensual things with consenting adults. Yet these people, they are cheating on their wives, having their mistresses get abortions when they want to ban abortion, having gay lovers, which, in and of itself, having a gay lover, no problem. 10 out of 10, can recommend. If you're cheating on your wife to do it while also wanting to strip rights away from gay people, that's where I have the issue.
That's like the moms from Liberty. What was it? Moms for Liberty?
Moms for Liberty. Yeah.
Yeah. They were, the co-founder was having threesomes while they were attacking LGBTQ books. Again, it's not about, here's the point. It's not about trans. It's not about gay. It's not about black. It's not about Mexican. It's not about any of the things that they say it's about. It's about one thing, and it's nonconformity. Because the only thing in their minds, the only people that should have success are straight, white, Christian men. And the only reason you should have success is if a straight, white Christian man takes you along for the ride. You know, with whether it's as, brings you as a wife or raises you as a child or takes you on as a manservant, slave, whatever. That's it. And you
better hope that your uterus works, because otherwise, like, you just, get the boot.
Yep. You better have that uterus in prime working condition, but you can't go to the doctor. You just need to eat more juicy greens.
It's like Moxie. Either you got it or you don't.
Either you got it or you don't. April, I'm just glad to see you, because you said you got flooded earlier in the Discord, and then we were like, what happened? And then you didn't answer. And so I was quite concerned. So I'm glad you're here. Grindr have actually threatened to put out Republican details if they try to ban them. I saw that.
I love that. Like, I'm not one for like airing people's private things or anything, but I will make an exception for this when you are actively trying to take rights away from my community, where, just saying, hey, by the way, this list of politicians, they all have Grindr accounts, and they're the reason why Grindr ends up crashing whenever there's a Republican convention in town.
Listen, I lived in Columbia, South Carolina for a long time. Okay, for like 15 years. How do I say this? Lindsey Graham lives there, or has a house there at least. That's all I should really say. That's all I should really say is, why would I bring Lindsey Graham up right then? Anyway, Kitty, I want to thank you. This is a great episode. We talked about stuff and things.
Important stuff. And we got to vent like our little bit of like screaming into the void.
Yep.
And I got to show off my new tattoos. My mother's
we finally got to see the new tattoos too. They're very good. Yeah. The cherry blossoms.
Mm-hmm.
They're healing nicely. It's healing very. Is it aloe or?
No, it's just lotion now. It's just
lotion.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's no longer scabbed. It's pretty much healed up.
Yeah, it looks good. It looks really good.
Just have to keep it moisturized for a while.
Well, listen, guys. We'll be back soon. We've been doing them every 2 weeks, and that's been working. So we're probably going to stay on that for a while. Hopefully, some of this work comes through over the next couple of weeks. Because if it does, I have a whole thing I want to do, but I need money to do it.
And we still need to finish the other 2 parts of the 3-parter.
Yes, that too. But yeah, so hopefully I earn some money over the next couple of weeks, so that I can do some stuff I want to do, because we don't want to use this software anymore because it kind of sucks, but it's free. So that's why we've been using it.
Free is good.
Free is good, especially when you're as broke as I am.
And when we're not making money on this, and we're just
we don't make any money off of this, so keep that in mind as well. But yeah, thanks guys for watching, and we'll see you probably in 2 weeks, because that's been working for right now.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks.